in California. We'll also preview Saturday's football home opener against Fort Lewis.
We've got it all in today's show. Trailblazer Weekly starts now. CEC TV studios on the Community Education Channel, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM, and the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page with another edition of Trailblazer Weekly. I'm Carrick Segmiller, and as always, joining me is Atlanta Braves superfan Drayson Ball.
Yeah, Carrick, I'm a Braves fan today, but you're lucky I'm talking to you today. Your Red Sox just swept my Atlanta Braves in 3 games. I'm not happy about it, but I'm happy to be here on Trailblazer Weekly. It
was a great game, wasn't it? Comeback victory for the Red Sox today. We're not here to talk about MLB, though. We're here to talk about Dixie State athletics, but do have to gloat as my Red Sox took the series over the Atlanta Braves, and superfan here was not too happy. Almost wasn't going to do the show, but we talked him into it anyway. But okay, enough baseball. We've got a full slate of Trailblazer athletics from over the weekend to get to, so let's start with women's soccer.
The women's soccer team headed to California to open its 2018 campaign and came away with 3, yes, count them, 3 shutout victories.
Great start for the women's soccer team as we just dive right into this recap here. You mentioned 3 shutout victories, 3-0 start for the Trailblazers. Anytime you can do that and on the road, no less, you've got yourself a great start, one of the best starts in the D2 era. Head coach Jerry Lucy, who we'll have on the show, has got to be happy about where this team is going and the trend that they're heading. But an absolutely marvelous start, probably has gone better than he could have scripted himself. A great start for women's soccer, and it's going to be fun to see them going forward.
You betcha. It's always a good time to start off the season 3-0. They got 3 tremendous wins on the road, like you mentioned. At Cal State San Bernardino, beat them 2-0. At Cal State San Marcos, a 2-0 win there as well. And Cal State LA, a 1-0 shutout victory as well. An awesome start to the season, just how you would imagine or how you'd prefer to start your season, Carrick, with 3 shutouts. A great weekend trip.
One of the things that I look at, too, is defensively, obviously you look at the goalkeeper. It was a shutout, but it's not just the goalkeeper. It's that back line and the defense as well doing their jobs. Not only have they only allowed 14 total attempts, 14 total shots, but just 4 shots on goal for this women's soccer defense. So that's a trend that we're seeing, scoring early and then being able to kind of sit back and stopping the other team, and then be able to get forward and maybe add another goal when they went to. That was kind of the MO of the men's soccer team a couple years ago when they won the Pac West Conference. So it's good to see that defense. But not only just that, though, an emerging goal scorer in Whitley Johns.
Yeah, she was tremendous as well. Let's not discount the defense was great, but the offense was great as well. Also, don't forget, last season you lost Darian Murdoch, who was your primary goal scorer, a Dixie State soccer legend, if you ask me. And Whitley Johns is a red shirt freshman coming in and scoring a goal in each of the 3 games in the win. So maybe we have a future star in the making in Whitley Johns.
Fantastic start for women's soccer. Can't wait to see what they do going forward. We stay on the pitch here with our Trailblazer weekend recap. Men's soccer, they start 1-1 on their season, their first 2 games. They headed down to Texas on Thursday, and this was a quick trip. They headed down to Odessa, Texas for a game against Texas Permian Basin, and they played that game, fall behind early, bounce back and win that game 2-1, then came back, had high hopes. They were playing an NAIA school in Ottawa out of Arizona. Ottawa jumped on them. Goal in the first 30 seconds, scored a goal in the second half as well to claim that 2-0 victory. So they showed some resilience in a comeback victory in Texas, and then not the result they wanted Saturday night in their home opener at Trailblazer Stadium, but still a lot of good things to take from the weekend and have every reason to believe that this men's soccer team will be just fine going forward.
Sure, it's a good weekend. I mean, there's ups and downs, just like any start of any season. Really, there's going to be some ups and some downs. Let's go back to the Texas Permian Basin game. They won 2-1 in overtime, a thrilling win, if you ask me. And also, when you win a game like that early in the season, especially to lead to, the first game of the season, when you win a game in overtime, it's got to give you a big boost, a big morale going into the rest of the season. Obviously, they came back and kind of had a little bit of a letdown against Ottawa. But, I mean, let's give Ottawa some credit. They were a good team, a very athletic team, a very disciplined team. And I think Dixie State could learn a lot from a team like that, even in a tough loss, 2-0 against an NAIA team.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Ottawa was incredibly athletic. They had speed. They had all the makings that you want for a good soccer team, all the ingredients, that's the word I was looking for, that you want in a good soccer team. Samuel George, who scored both of their goals, they were phenomenal goals. He was able to chip the keeper from 20 yards out one of the times. So a good team, and Coach Broadhead warned everybody of that. Said, hey, this isn't your typical NAIA team. This is a good team that we're going to have to be on our A game to win this game. I don't know if you want to call it a wake-up call, but maybe it was for that staff and for that team. But rather have it happen game 2 than game 12 or 13 when you're in the thick of an RMAC conference race, and who knows what would happen after that loss. So I think they'll be just fine, and we'll have to see what they do going forward.
I agree, Carrick. Coach Broadhead has proven over the years that he's been a tremendous head coach. I believe the team will bounce back. But the football team headed to Colorado on Saturday for its season opener at number 14 and now number 12 ranked RMAC favorite CSU Pueblo. Carrick, obviously a tough loss, a 56-14 loss at the hands of the Thunderwolves in Pueblo, but there are some positives that we can take out of a tough loss like that. Obviously going from last year, the team really struggled with penalties. And you look back at this game against Pueblo, only 4 penalties against the Trailblazers in that matchup compared to 13 for Pueblo for over 120 yards in the matchup as well. Our defense forced 5 turnovers of the Thunderwolves offense, plus a safety as well. And we also sacked their quarterback seven separate times. So even in a tough loss, a 56-14 loss, there are some positives to be taken from a game like that. And the Dixie State did play well in some aspects of the game.
I'll tell you this about that 56-14 loss to CSU Pueblo. We have a coach, and head coach Shane McClure, who he's a no excuses kind of guy, and there were no excuses made. And he can admit that, hey, when a football team's better than us, that's just fine. What he doesn't like to see is when his team makes mistakes and maybe beats themselves a little bit. And I think this Dixie State football team is feeling like that just a little bit. Maybe you're looking at the score going, well, I don't know about that. But take a look at this number, and this one blew my mind when I noticed it on the box score. We were at home volleyball and home soccer Saturday night, and so I wasn't able to pay quite as close attention to the game as I wanted to as it was happening. Had to go back and watch it and do some stuff later. But CSU Pueblo scored 7 touchdowns in that game. 6 of those touchdowns came on plays of 65 yards or more. We're talking a blocked field goal from inside 30 yards that went 65 yards the other way for a touchdown. We're talking a 71-yard touchdown run, 2 80-yard touchdown runs in the third quarter. And when you look at those drives, a lot of those long runs were the first or second play of the drive. So you go back, you look at the film, say, why are we missing that initial contact? Why is this running back able to get the edge? Why is he able to break through the hole? And those are the kind of things that they'll shore up, and they'll be just fine. You don't want to it's hard not to push the panic button after a 56-14 loss, but I think this is one of those games you look at it, we're already missing a few players on offense, and this is one of the best teams in the country in Division II. In fact, I would argue would compete and probably beat a lot of smaller FCS Division I teams. CSU Pueblo is just a great team, and so I have every reason to believe that this Dixie State football team will just be fine. It's not the end of the world.
I agree. It's not the end of the world, and we have an opportunity to just turn the page this Saturday against Fort Lewis. We'll get to that later on in the show. It's not time to panic yet, and I think they will bounce back.
The volleyball team opened its home schedule with a 5-team, 12-match tournament in the Burns Arena last week. If you missed it, shame on you, Drayson, because it was incredible. Volleyball in the Burns Arena for the first time in Dixie State history. The Trailblazers go 3-1 in that tournament, falling in the tournament finale to Arkansas at Fort Smith Saturday night. But a 3-1 win over Tarleton State, a 3-0 win over Western New Mexico, a 3-1 win over UCCS, and then the 3-1 loss against Arkansas Fort Smith. Never had to play more than 4 sets in the tournament. Incredible atmosphere in the Burns Arena, and you've got me wondering, I think a lot of other people too, when are we going to see volleyball in the Burns Arena again? Because that was electric.
It was an awesome atmosphere, Carrick, and we're not overblowing this at all. It was really a fun weekend. Obviously, Thursday was a little bit down because it was a weekday, but once the weekend hit, Friday and Saturday, it was really booming in there. A great crowd. They were loud. They were electric, like you mentioned, and it's just a good start to the season as well. Coming off last week where they beat a number 19 ranked team, they beat Tarleton State, who was a number 18 ranked team as well. Not only that, they're beating their opponents in quick sets. They beat Tarleton State in 4 sets, Western New Mexico in 3 sets, Colorado Springs in 4 sets. So they're beating their opponents and they're beating them quickly as well, which is what I like to see from the volleyball team.
One thing I noticed that really jumped out at me, you hear the cliche that defense wins championships, and it is so true. Obviously, you don't win a championship without being able to score. In volleyball, you have to have those great the outside hitters. You got to have the whole package and everything there, all the ingredients. But Dixie State looked gritty and extremely tough defensively as well. In fact, we'll have middle blocker Lauren Gamble on the show here in just a few minutes. She was named RMAC Defender of the Week. This Dixie State team leads the RMAC in opponent hitting percentage, in blocks, and then an offensive stat in service aces as well. But they lead in 2 of the defensive statistical categories. This team is gritty. They are tough defensively, and it was fun to watch all those blocks.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect anything less from the Dixie State volleyball team under the helm of Coach Robin Felder. She has proven that she has been able to establish a program like this based on defense. Obviously, you mentioned they were extremely tough, and their defense was playing extremely well over the weekend. They really were able to kind of limit the offensive sets from their opponents as well, making blocks and things like that, and just being able to set up their own offense to counter. Offense leads into defense, that old cliche as well, and they were able to do that really well against all 4 opponents, I guess you should say, against over the weekend.
Well, Coach Felder sat next to us here on set last week, and she told us, I can guarantee you one thing, this team is tough. They're a hard-hitting team, and we saw that as well. Lot of kills. Lots of points that didn't go over the net very many times. You're talking about a serve and then your dig, set, and attack, and boom, the play was over. And it was a lot of fun to watch inside the Burns Arena. Coach Felder told us last week that we feel like they fit in very well in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and they feel like they're going to have a good chance to compete in this conference, and that they will. They were phenomenal inside the Burns Arena, and you got me just asking, when are we going to see more volleyball? Yeah. Inside the Burns. Volleyball team heads to South Dakota this week, and so we'll be able to see them at South Dakota Mines on Friday, and then Black Hills State on Saturday. So that should be fun. That wraps up our weekend recap. We got to take a break. When we come back, more volleyball as junior middle blocker Lauren Gamble joins us right here on the set after this timeout. Trailblazer Weekly is presented by the Dixie State Campus Store. Big shout out to Aaron and his crew for helping us deck out our new set with the DSU gear and memorabilia. They're located on the 2nd floor of the Gardner Center and are open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week, closed on Saturdays and Sundays. You can stop by when you're on your way to class. You can stop by on your way back from class or on your way home. Doesn't matter when, because they'll be loaded with great Trailblazer swag anytime you stop by the DSU Campus Store.
Of course, we are live on CEC TV, Radio Dixie 91.3 FM, and the DSU Athletics YouTube page. However you're joining us today, we thank you and hope you're enjoying the show. After a successful 3-1 start to the home schedule, Dixie State was rewarded with its first RMAC Weekly Award. And joining us today in studio is junior middle blocker and reigning RMAC Defender of the Week, Lauren Gamble. Lauren, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to have you on, and obviously get a good start to the season. You're back in classes now. How is everything going for you as far as classes and the practices and all that kind of stuff? How is it?
It's been a little bit crazy trying to balance everything, work and class and practice, but what's nice is we practice in the morning and we have it all done by 9 o'clock. So then you have that whole day open.
Got a good get a good little morning workout in, right?
Yep.
And get through the day that way as well. So let's go into the weekend, jive right into it. Talk about the atmosphere there. Obviously a new kind of thing for the volleyball team to play in the Burns Arena. Talk a little bit about that and the dynamic of how was it and how was it to play in there, and kind of just go in depth about how that was.
It honestly was so awesome. It's going to be hard going back to the SAC after playing in the Burns because we had so many fans there, and I thought that it would seem like hollow inside because we don't get as many fans as like basketball team would get. in the Burns Arena, but we had so many people and it was so loud and the energy and just everything was so awesome about playing in there.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier in the show. I mean, it was an electric atmosphere. It was really dynamic. The fans were loud. They were really on their game. But also you mentioned the SAC. The SAC's a unique environment as well because it's kind of tight knit and close, which that's what makes it good and unique. Is that the fans are right on top of the court there, and it's loud and it echoes there as well. What kind of advantage does playing in the SAC give you guys throughout the season?
It's kind of more intimidating having all of our fans right up next to the other team, and the ceiling, it's so much lower. So if you dig a ball and it hits the ceiling, comes right back down, we're kind of used to that, whereas other teams aren't used to that.
RMAC Defender of the Week, Lauren, congratulations on that.
you.
It's always good, just the second weekend of the season, you're already making noise inside of the conference. And when you start conference play this weekend, I don't think you're going to take anyone by surprise. Only picked 7th in the coaches poll, but after that, I think they're saying that poll's out the window. But talk about how much fun you have playing defense. We also have you listed as a right side hitter sometime. I heard you say the other day that you're a true right side hitter, but you're playing middle blocker this year, playing more of that defensive role. How fun has that been this year to be able to lead the conference in blocks right now?
I think it's been so fun. Honestly, I love right side, but the best part about middle is being able to block both sides because you get double the chance to try to block their hitters and shut them down. And I think that's even more fun than being offensive.
How much of an emphasis is placed at practice each day? Obviously, I'm sure you work on it every day. That's what you're working on at practice. But I'm sure Coach Felder's telling you, hey, we've got to score points to win, but if we're not a good defensive team, we're not going to have a chance to win. How much emphasis does she place at practice on that defense and stopping the opponent's attack?
Yeah, we start out with blocking trips at the beginning, and then we do like arm warm-ups, but then we split off into groups, and like the outsides will do their thing, the liberos will do their thing, setters will do their thing, and then middles and right sides will do a lot of blocking for like an hour before we get into play.
Yeah, I mean that's the practice dynamic always fascinates me as far as the things that you guys work on, and you guys obviously are clearly practiced well practiced, I guess I should say. Kendrick mentioned your defense. You right now are leading the team in 38 total blocks on the season. You're second in the RMAC in total blocks as well, and first in percentage of blocks. Talk about how have you been able to kind of anchor the defense so far this season from the middle blocking position?
Well, I think the middle, it's kind of the setup for all of our defense. If our middle hitters aren't closing to our outsides or right sides, it kind of messes up the defense. So it's really important for the middle to close the block so that the defense can set up accordingly.
How much of an emphasis does Coach Felder put on things like team chemistry and hanging out with each other outside of practice or outside of school? How much emphasis does she put on that kind of stuff? And also, do you feel like that sort of stuff helps? And how does it help the team?
She puts a ton of emphasis on it. I know during two-a-days and everything, after practice, we would all go have team dinner together. And I think the best part about that is we're best friends on the court and off the court. And I think you can really see that when we're playing, that we really do care for one another and that we have each other's back when we're on the court.
Of course, we talk about Coach Felder a lot. She's a phenomenal coach, but the last 2 years have been able to come in and be coached by the assistant coach, Dave Richards, as well. Talk about him as an assistant coach and how much he brings to that team. And I know he's just a volleyball genius, a walking volleyball almanac. I mean, he just knows everything about the game that there is to know. How nice is that to have at practice, knowing that, hey, I can rely on someone other than just the head coach?
It's been awesome. He's brought so much to our team. He's brought all of our new plays that we run last year and even have worked on them even more this year. And he's just brought a whole other coaching side to our team, super positive, and is always willing to help us out.
I like that you mentioned the plays that you run, because I just want to, maybe I shouldn't admit this, I love watching volleyball. I don't understand all the intricacies that's going on because I just see the dig, the set, and the attack, but I know you're really calling out plays. And without divulging any team secrets or anything, I mean, how does that happen? Who calls the play? I mean, how does that work in volleyball? Is a certain formation on the court? How does that work when you're running those certain plays in volleyball?
Well, honestly, it's all the setter. The setter will call the play according to how the pass is, or in different rotations when we're stacked on different sides. That will be different play calls as well.
Dixie State, a school that's not terribly unfamiliar to you. You're a junior, you've been here for a few years, but also your dad played football here in the 1980s. When there was a junior college. How much did that influence your decision to come to Dixie State when you're like, hey, my dad came down and played here, maybe I can come play too?
I always had that in the back of my mind. I knew that my dad had come and played here, and I always thought that it would be cool to represent Dixie like he did. I actually wear the same jersey number that he wore when he played football. He was number 6. That's why I decided to be number 6 too.
Wow, that's an awesome story. It's always good to hear, a family member, aunt, uncle, parent, brother, sister, whatever it may be, influencing your decision to come play here as well. That's a great story. I want to know a little bit more about your history, your personal history in volleyball. You were a 2-time 4A All-State selection up at Spanish Fork with the Dons. And talk to me just a little bit about your high school experience and then kind of get into why you chose Dixie.
Okay, so for high school, I honestly had a little bit of a late start. I didn't play club when I was younger. I started out as a freshman. I actually had one of my neighbors that made me try out for volleyball my freshman year. She's like, "You're so tall, like, you should come play volleyball." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to play. Like, I've never played before." And she forced me to come, and that was the best decision ever, to have her make me come try out for volleyball, because then it's brought me here to Dixie. But I can't remember what else you're asking.
Joe, just about why you chose Dixie.
Why I chose Dixie.
You talked about your father, obviously. Is there anything other external?
I just love that it's so close to home. I mean, my house is 3 hours away, and I love when I came here my junior year, I came here for an elite camp, and I just loved the way that Robin ran the camp. I loved her coaching style, and that really was what made me choose Dixie.
That's a tremendous story. Obviously, close to home is a big important part as well. You're going to play Westminster as well this season. Do you have any maybe rivals or any teammates from high school or opponents from high school maybe that you're going to be facing up at Westminster this year? Anything like that?
I actually have a club teammate, Amber Lamborn. She plays either outside or right side at Westminster, so that'll be fun to play against her.
What's special about this year's team? This is your 3rd team that you've been a part of here at Dixie State. What makes this year's team special? I know it's early on, but you just look like you have that great team chemistry and a dynamic about your team that's just special this year. What's different than this year's team from maybe the 26 or 2017 squads?
Honestly, just the way that we play together, I feel like it's a different feeling out on the court, even from last year. Like, it's just a different feeling, a good feeling. We have super strong hitters like our outside Toa and the right side Meg. They bring a whole other offense to our team that we didn't have in years prior.
How fun has it been to have them on the squad? Obviously, they were teammates up at Salt Lake Community College, and now they're teammates down here as well, and such an intricate part of this year's team. How are they in practice, and how's their personalities? Are they serious? Are they funny? Who kind of brings the comedic relief in the team?
I think they both do. They're both super funny, and I think it's fun that they are teammates, so they kind of not really came in as like a clique, but they came in knowing each other, and then we've all gotten to know them better too, so that's been fun.
I asked Coach last week, so I've got to ask you now, because you players are probably the ones that do this more. Do you give Megan a hard time about her name, Megan Trainer? You ask her to sing some songs. Does that ever come up, or maybe it's just me trying to be funny?
I think it's come up a few times, but not really a whole lot.
You get to make a trip to South Dakota tomorrow, actually. You're hopping on planes, trains, and automobiles to get to Rapid City and then to Spearfish. And I've actually got family in that Spearfish, the Black Hills State area. It's a beautiful area. I think you'll like it out there. Have you ever been out there at all? Have you seen what's the monument in Rapid City? Mount Rushmore. What kind of American am I? Have you been there before? Have you been out to the Black Hills? It's beautiful.
I haven't been there. I'm really excited to go.
How excited are you to compete inside the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference? I know it's a little different. There's some changes. I know some, pros and cons to the Pac West and the RMAC. It might be a little colder towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. But is there an exciting element that say, hey, we're playing some teams that we've never really played before. We get to see some new places.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to kind of switch it up. I mean, we won't be going to Hawaii. That's where we all like to travel to, in California. But all these new places and new opportunities and new teams to play. So it'll be really fun.
Well, Lauren, we appreciate you stopping by today and joining us and being part of the show. And we get to send you over to Rapid City and then to Spearfish in South Dakota. We hope you come back with a couple more wins. It's been fun to watch you so far, and we're going to keep an eye out the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you
so much.
Reigning RMAC Defender of the Week, Lauren Gamble, joining us here on the set. We appreciate her. We got to take another break. When we come back, we've got another guest. Women's soccer is off to a great start this season, and head coach Jerry Lucy will join us next on set to help us break it all down. We're back after this timeout on Trailblazer Weekly.
The 2018-19 fall season is in full swing, and no matter how hard you try, you'll probably miss a Dixie State game or two along the way. But no worries. You can keep up with all the action with pictures, stats, and game recaps at DixieStateAthletics.com. You can also follow along with updates on Twitter with our official account at Dixie Athletics. While you're at it, don't forget to follow this show on Twitter as well with at DSU Blazer Weekly.
It's time to move back to the pitch as our next guest has his team off to a superb start to the 2018 season. Let's welcome women's soccer head coach Jerry Lucy to the show. Coach, appreciate you stopping by and making a part of your day to be here and join us. I know probably just wrapped up practice and then sprinted up here
because
I know
smelling me from here. So
I know that you're in good shape. I see you out there practicing with the girls every day, so I wouldn't be surprised if you really did take an opportunity to just sprint up here.
No, not quite, but
no, really, we appreciate you making part of your day to be here with us. And man, what a start that your team is off to this season. You're 3-0 and on the road, no less. You're getting ready to go back out. You got an exhibition at home here and then back out on the road again. But let's talk about that 3-0 start first. What have you seen that's really impressed you? Let's break down more than just here on the outside. We see, you're 3-0, you won the games. But what has impressed you the most as this team's soccer coach so far through this start?
I think straight away you have to identify chemistry. Coming in last spring, I felt that the team was very unified. I think it was going back to some of the hardships they had endured prior to that, but they really were a very collective group. So it was in many ways very refreshing coming in and seeing that unity immediately there, not having to build that as much as previously. And I think that's just carried on into the season, which is not easy going into a 7-game road trip. Pretty much, but they've embraced it. They've gone away like that. It's kind of been a bit of a pre-season away where we've got everybody and they've kind of gelled together. So it's been very, very exciting so far.
Of course, along with the new coaching staff this year, the team's moving to a new conference and the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference. But how nice has it been so far to say, well, we're in the RMAC now, so we got all these teams down in Southern California at our disposal to go play. Of course, you played three CCAA teams, so those weren't Pac-West teams, but you get to go play Azusa Pacific here in a couple weeks. But you've got all these teams now at your disposal to go down, and you don't have to go too far to fill your non-conference schedule. Yeah,
no, it's exciting. It's excellent. I mean, it's the quality of soccer, obviously, in Southern California is very high on the women's side. So, playing against 3 teams that want to play a very possession-style game was good for us. We had to be patient. We kind of, we looked to find our opportunities in those games, and obviously found them. But yeah, it's a great place to go and play soccer. Some very strong competition.
Coach, we've talked about it. You had an unbelievable start defensively to begin the season. 3 shutouts at that. Talk a little bit about, can we expect more from that from your defense? Obviously, you're not going to shut out every game, but can we expect you to be more of a defensive-oriented team, kind of expect some lower-scoring matches?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly prefer to win by 1 or 2 with a shutout than win 5-4 on a heart attack. So it is important to me that defensively that was sound. I mean, the old adage that defense wins championships. That's very true. So if we're solid defensively, I feel we got a great shot of winning most of our games. At the same time, we are very attack-minded. We got some very strong attacking players, and we do like to play a possession game as well. We just kind of have to pick and choose those moments in games where we can really focus in on maintaining possession and hopefully hurting the opposition.
Coach, I mean, your defense was great, but let's not discredit your offense either. They were tremendous as well. Had a bunch of shots on goals. And redshirt freshman Whitley Johns has scored in each of the 3 games throughout the weekend. She played tremendous as well. Talk a little bit about her and if she's kind of emerged as your goal scorer. She's replacing a Darian Murdoch last year, who was the leading scorer and a Dixie State legend, if you ask me. How has Whitley Johns kind of filled that role, and will that kind of continue?
We fully expect. I mean, we saw a little bit of Whitley in the spring. She's coming back off ACL tear, but I could see immediately, even when she wasn't training with the team, the type of athlete that she was, the type of personality she was, very, very determined. She wants to score goals. So she is expected to, and she will score many, many goals. I don't know if she's going to reach Darian's total from last year, but the level of competition is obviously increasing as we go through the RMAC. But she's a very dangerous player. She can shoot right, she can shoot left, she can score with her head. So she's got a bit of pace about her. She's physical. She gets poachers type of goals. We say poachers is inside the 6-yard box. So she can score from many different ways. So a very, very dangerous player.
Women's soccer head coach Jerry Lucy joining us on Trailblazer Weekly. And coach, want to keep breaking it down here as we kind of pinball back and forth talking about offense and defense. We just want to talk about as many of the players as we can, because really in the end it's all about these girls and about these student athletes that are doing this here. Obviously, as Drayson mentioned, just a phenomenal weekend overall, but defensively, at this point in the season, you've only allowed 14 total attempts and only 4 shots on goal. You've got Alexa Ashton winning the Defender Week, and for those wondering, that's a separate category. They do have Goalkeeper of the Week category as well, but Alexa has been able to help anchor. She played every minute of the trip and helped this team allow just 4 shots on goal. So talk about what Alexa's effort meant to the team this weekend, and maybe pick out a couple others along that back line more than just your goalkeepers as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, Alexa was solid. I mean, that's why we kept her in the game every minute. Didn't let us down. She's basically the heart and soul back there, along with Nicole Mertz. Alexa brings a very physical style to the field, which I like. She knows her strengths, she knows her weaknesses, and she plays to that. She's a true leader on the field. Not always the most vocal, but she leads by example. So she was very solid. Kylie Lamb, obviously just got married this summer. So Kylie had another tremendous weekend. We switched her from defense into the centre midfield in the last game, and she really won us the game. Just a real captain's performance. As I mentioned before, Nicole Mertz, obviously another very central player in our defence. Someone who started the last 3 years and been very solid for us. So in the 3 of those, plus Cammy Hunter, we know we got 4 very reliable players back in there.
Coach, I know you're a very fitness-minded soccer coach, and it's probably not that uncommon to be fitness-minded, but it's a game that you have to be fit in order to run around. I know you're not on the media day. You mentioned, hey, we're not quite there on the fitness level yet. How about now, a couple weeks later? Is the fitness getting there? Is it getting up to where you want to see that fitness level at this point in the season?
We've definitely noticed the difference between the first day of pre-season, when it was very disappointing with only 4 players passing the fitness test, to where we are today. I think more players are buying into our philosophy as well. So the fitness levels are key. We're actually just on another fitness session right now, so they're a little bit tired, but they're buying into it, and they're really pushing that element of it as well. So it is hugely important in soccer.
Coach, I want to get a little bit about your personal history. I mean, you've been all over. I was reading your bio on DixieStateAthletics.com, and you've been all over. You've got a ton of experience. You've won a national championship in Division II, 8 NCAA tournament appearances, 3 NCAA regional championships, 4 regular season conference championships, and 5 conference championship wins, tournament wins, excuse me. What have you learned in your kind of tenure as a head coach, and what can you bring? What have you already brought, and what are you going to continue to bring in the future for Dixie State?
You just got to keep on evolving. I mean, every year you're dealing with a different type of student athletes. If you go back 4 or 5 years, we can see differences to 4 or 5 years, and go back 10 years, go back 15, go back 20. Different student athletes. So if you don't evolve, you're not going to mesh with those players. They're not going to really, buy into what you're doing. So evolving is hugely important. Obviously, we do bring a lot of experience, and I'm always open-minded. I always think I've got something new to learn. So I never kind of rest on my laurels. I never think, look back on my resume and think, oh well, that's great. I can stop it at that. No, we want to win here. We want to win. We want to keep on winning, and we want these girls to win championships. And as you kind of mentioned before, it is about the student athletes. It's about their experience. So we want them to experience the highs of winning conference tournaments at the collegiate level.
Not only that, Coach, I mean, you've obviously have an unbelievable record as a coach, but you also have some playing experience as well back in the early 90s, played some semi-pro and some pro ball as well in the late 90s. How has your experience as a player helped you kind of just formulate the system and the program that you've implemented here at Dixie State? Okay.
Well, I think, I was playing while I was coaching. So, I finished up playing professionally in 2000, and prior to that, I'd started at CW Post, coaching at the college level. So, I knew I was going to get into coaching. So, you just draw on your past experiences. So, yes, of course, it's a different game, coach on the female level to the male level, and playing professionally compared to obviously where they're playing right now. But I like to draw on the experiences from past and pass those along to the players. We always feel that we can offer something, and we never put ourselves above the players. We kind of We just want to be there to help guide them, and if we're doing the right job and making each individual better, then obviously collectively we're going in the right direction.
Some coaches might say that, Coach, that they're only as good as their lead assistant or some of their assistant coaches. You've got an incredible one in Freddie Delgado. Talk about what he brings to the program and just Division I experience for a lot of years. Talk about what Freddie brings to your program.
Tremendous insight into the game. He's coached Division I for many, many years and has some success there as well. Played at a good level collegiately, obviously in the RMAC, so with Regis. But he's a type of coach where you can just basically, I could just walk away. He can run the session if needed, and I know he's doing a good job. Most days, pretty much every day, we split the group into two. He takes the attacking players, I take the defensive players, and I look down the field and know he's giving a lot of positive information to the players, and they're growing, they're developing, and we can see in their timing of their runs and in the movements that they're obviously taking on board what he's given. But he is a tremendous assistant coach to have at this level. Tremendous.
Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the help of Laura and Julie as well, both women that have been part of the program at Dixie State through the years and part of national championship teams here.
Yes, they are. Yeah, so we're privileged to have those two on board as well. Both of them just came in pre-season. Pretty much they started up in pre-season. As you said, that they've won a national championship here before, back in the early 2000s. But they're great to have as role models for the players. That's kind of one, the idea I had behind them coming in here was that they could teach the players a lot about being collegiate athletes and also just young women, and hopefully learn from these ladies who have obviously been down the same path and been very successful.
Looking at the schedule, you've got your exhibition against Snow College this weekend here at home, so you get a little bit of break here at home, but then the road trip continues back to California for Azusa Pacific on the 13th, and then RMAC conference play begins on the 16th up at Westminster, and then to Regis. What do you hope to get out of this exhibition this weekend, and then one more non-conference game in Southern California before you jump into that tough RMAC schedule?
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll get to see another couple of the players who haven't played yet. We've had a couple who've been injured. We'd like to get a look at this weekend, and then moving on from there, we obviously want to go on against Azusa and do well against Azusa, and follow that up with obviously going into conference play ready. Hopefully we're a lot sharper than we are right now. We've done well, but obviously it's still very early in the season. There's a long way to go, and obviously we spoke about it today. The players aren't quite in their stride yet. There's a lot of room for growth within them, and hopefully we'll hit that.
Coach, obviously time runs short, but I got to ask you before we get out of here. I got to ask you, Ronaldo or Messi? Obviously they have a great rivalry. Who do you think?
That's easy. Messi.
All righty.
Got it. I got to ask you something too along those lines. Favorite team, favorite stadium that you've been to or played in?
Favorite team, Liverpool. Followed them for 30, 40 years. Favorite stadium, I was just actually over in Barcelona at the Camp Nou. So I was over there in May to watch their last game of the season. Fantastic environment, fantastic city, beautiful stadium.
Do you play FIFA? Or do you leave that to your players?
No, I don't play that, no. Not my generation, so.
All right, well, that's probably the one thing I could beat you in, Coach. Let's have a game of FIFA. No, Coach, we appreciate you joining us on the show. It's just been fantastic to see your influence here on this team and to be able to help build a program that's had success over the years and just needing to get to that next level, and we really believe you're the man for that job.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
happy to have you here, and thanks for joining us on the show.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Coach.
Okay.
We're going to take one more time out, but when we come back, we'll take a quick look at the games this weekend, and then we'll recap the show today as well. A lot coming up this weekend and a lot to talk about still here on the show. One more time out, and then we're back to put a bow on the show on Trailblazer Weekly. The Dixie State Stretch Internet Portal on the RMAC Network is your home for all Trailblazer Athletics live streaming. Don't miss a second of the action. You can watch DSU games home and away at portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. Again, that's portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. Another edition of Trailblazer Weekly has come and gone, and it's time to put a bow on the show.
But before we do that, Carrick, and before we look back on today's show, we've got a weekend preview for you. The volleyball team heads to South Dakota to battle South Dakota Mines on Friday and Black Hills State on Saturday. The men's soccer team heads to Salt Lake City for non-conference matchups against Notre Dame Dana Moore and Texas A&M International, while the women's soccer stays home for an exhibition match against Snow College on Saturday. Visit DixieStateAthletics.com for game times and game info links.
Let's not forget about one of the biggest things of that weekend preview, Drayson, and that is the football home opener against Fort Lewis College on Saturday at 6 p.m. inside Trailblazer Stadium. We're calling it our key matchup, and I think we'll probably do that each week as we kind of look at the key home matchup of the weekend. Obviously, it's the only matchup at home other than the women's soccer exhibition against Snow College, which that game doesn't go in the official stats. So here's our key matchup. It's football. It's a marquee sport. It's a team that's trying to bounce back from a tough loss last week. Fort Lewis also trying to do the same thing. They're coming off a 45-31 home loss to New Mexico Highlands. So it's two teams looking at it going, something's got to give. One of us has got to get our first win this season and try to start turning our season back around.
And I can't be more excited for it, Carrick. I don't think. It's going to be an electric atmosphere. You know, obviously we're expecting a large crowd, what with the new stadium and being revealed in kind of the first game in the kind of new stadium era as well. And let's not overlook the fact that we get to come home after a tough loss. And like I mentioned earlier in the show, turn the page from that 56-14 tough kind of blowout loss. We get to go back out, play a solid team in Fort Lewis who we can certainly beat Fort Lewis, and I do think we'll eventually pull it out at the end, and I am excited to get things going and to get the home opening schedule going.
Well, I'm excited to be able to talk about this here for just a moment as we begin to wrap the show up. Obviously, the 2018 home opener, all those things that you mentioned as well, but like you said, it's the first Dixie State football game played in the revamped Trailblazer Stadium. That east side grandstand's there. We're cutting the ribbon at halftime. You know, we're expecting a record crowd on hand. The single game record in the Division II era at Trailblazer Stadium is just over 5,300. I'm thinking that we'll probably break that in this game. I'm hoping. It's the Chartway Kickoff Classic, and I know a lot of work has been put into this season opener. Of course, remember, if you're out there watching, your kids 18 and under get in free to the games. And this weekend, $5 for adults. We're basically giving you buy one, get one free. Regular general admission adult ticket is $9. Now we're saying that you and a spouse or you and a friend can get in for $10 because it's only $5 a ticket. So you can come out, enjoy some great football. It's a red out. The first 2,000 fans are going to get free red Trailblazer t-shirt. Of course, don't forget about the tailgate party from 3 to 5 as well, the ribbon cutting at halftime. And then after the game, for the first time, at least since I've been around, the first time I can remember, an after-game fan fest. We're going to play Remember the Titans in the stadium afterward, and with ice cream, an opportunity to meet and greet with Brooks the Bison, student athletes. It's going to be an absolutely fantastic time at Trailblazer Stadium. You hope the football game is one to set the tone, hopefully bounce back and get that win. But if not, there's tons of other festivities going on that if you're out there watching or listening right now, you need to be at Trailblazer Stadium on Saturday night. The game starts at 6. You got the tailgate that I mentioned at 3. Go grab yourself a free burger, come across the street a little bit later, enjoy the game. Should be an electric atmosphere between two teams that, if you go back and you look at their series history, Dixie State leads the overall series history between the Trailblazers and the Skyhawks 2-1. First game was played back in 2006. First year as a Division II. It was the Dixie Rotary Bowl at the time. That game has since been disbanded, but Fort Lewis came over and actually won that game. But the last 2 years, in 2016 and then in 2017, Dixie State and Fort Lewis have played in the season finale for both teams, and they have both been very closely contested games. Dixie State a 16-14 win in 2016. Fort Lewis and then going over to Durango last year and winning 23-13. So Fort Lewis, no doubt, has this game circled on their calendar, saying we've had some close games that we maybe have felt slipped away from us. They want this one badly. It's going to be two teams battling it out. I expect a really good football game Saturday night.
I do too, Carrick. I mean, you mentioned it. The history is there. The desire is there. Obviously, the desire to win is there. You mentioned the tailgate party. Dixie State does an incredible job with the tailgate party. Free food, like you mentioned. There's always seems to be a bounce house or two. Rock climbing walls has been there often as well. And it's just an incredible feeling to just drive past the stadium maybe a couple hours before the actual kickoff and to see all the fans there, the festivities and the tailgate party, and kind of just maybe hear the band in the background as well from the Trailblazer Stadium. It's going to be a great season opener here at home against a tough opponent, but opponent that we can beat, and we've proven that we've been able to beat in the past as well.
Trailblazer Stadium as well. I mean, you mentioned driving past it, seeing it. I mean, you're inside that thing, and it feels like a college football stadium now. It feels like a college athletics, college football stadium with that east side grandstand. And, we're hoping for a big crowd. So come on out, bring the family, enjoy a good night of college football inside Trailblazer Stadium. Kickoff at 6. We'll have a pregame for you right here on CEC TV. It'll be on the DSU Stretch Internet portal that we referenced coming out of the break. That's portal.stretchinternet.com/Dixie State. And then on Radio Dixie 91.3 FM as well. The Triplecast going for the game. We'll have all the action for you. And then, of course, check DixieStateAthletics.com for the photos, stats, recaps. We'll have everything for you wrapping up this football game, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it next week on Trailblazer Weekly. With the few minutes that remain, let's just recap today's show. Remember, we talked about kind of that weekend recap and the great starts that some of our teams have had. We focused specifically on volleyball and women's soccer. If you missed it earlier in the show, we had Lauren Gamble, volleyball junior middle blocker, on the show, followed by women's soccer head coach Jerry Lucy. Let's start with the kind of the Lauren Gamble interview, Drayson. Really fun to have Lauren on the show, and you can tell, I mean, she likes to laugh, she likes to have fun, and she hinted that the team is that way. I think this team's having fun right now, and it's showing as they're 5-2 on the season.
Well, she mentioned that. She told us that Robin Feather puts a big emphasis on, the team hanging out outside of school, outside of practices and things like that. She says that they all get along very well. There's a couple of jokesters there on the team as well, which always helps to lighten the mood sometimes in a kind of a serious environment at times. I really liked what she was talking about, though, was about how they prepare going into each game. She talked specifically about how Coach divides them up to do their sets, to do their, their attacks, and how to play defense, and how to block and all that kind of different things. Some of those minor details that may get overlooked from time to time with a different coaching staff, different programs perhaps. But she talked about how Robin Felder has been really a great implementer of those minor things that sometimes get overlooked, but really are major things when I'll put it all together to going to a matchup every weekend. And so I really enjoyed talking with Lauren. She's a great person, and she was a great person to have on the interview as well here on Trailblazer Weekly. And she obviously the RMAC defender of the week, the RMAC Conference player of the defender of the week, and obviously great to have her on.
The first student athlete that we've had on the new set here. So I was excited to kind of break in the new set that way. And that's one of the goals here on Trailblazer Weekly. We love hearing from coaches. And I'm not afraid to tell them this. We love hearing from coaches. We've got to have you on a time or two throughout the season. Man, this thing's all about the student athletes. It's about what they bring and the work that they put in here at Dixie State. So we're looking forward to hearing from student athletes as well. Also, we want to hear from Dixie State alumni. We have a track and Trailblazer segment that we have not debuted yet that is going to be fun. We're going to look around at some of the Dixie State former student athletes that are playing professional ball or maybe have played professional ball. Later in the year, around February, we have the 2019 Dixie State Hall of Fame class. So we'll be able to get whoever is inducted into that on the show as well. It's going to be a good opportunity to see where people are now and get the student athletes involved. Man, that volleyball team definitely playing some great defense. They lead the conference in opponent hitting percentage and in total blocks as well. We focused a lot on women's soccer as well, and if you're just joining us, you missed a great interview with women's soccer head coach Jerry Lucy, and he came in here and he's a fitness-minded coach, and he said, we're a lot better than we were before. We can still be better, but he's pleased with that 3-0 start. He wants to see that improve, and like he said, some of those games could have ended up, instead of just 1 or 2-0 wins, could have been 4, 5, 6 goals, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Sometimes it hits the crossbar, sometimes it hits the sidebar, sometimes it goes in the net, and you can see that with Dixie State this season, putting forth that attack and then getting 3 shutout wins as well.
Yeah, it's always good to start your season on a 3-0 record, especially 3 shutout victories like they had. I like how Jerry Lucy talked about kind of how he wants this team to be a little bit more defensive minded. He said that he prefers to win games, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1, that kind of lower scoring game rather than like a 5-4, 6-4, 6-5 type of high scoring offensive minded game. Now also, he mentioned he likes to have a defensive oriented team, but his offense is no slack as well. They scored 2 goals in 2 of the contests and 1 in the other. They also have an emerging goal scorer in
Whitley Johns.
Whitley Johns, exactly.
Yep.
Excuse me for forgetting her name, but obviously she scored a goal in each of the 3 matchups as well, and hopefully she can continue to do that and have more success throughout the season.
Don't feel too bad about forgetting her name, because I couldn't remember Mount Rushmore
right, exactly.
earlier in the season. If you weren't listening then, you didn't miss. We were talking about volleyball heading to South Dakota, and I couldn't remember Mount Rushmore of all places. I was there last summer. Couldn't believe I couldn't remember it, but this women's soccer team, the defense has been phenomenal so far this season. As we wrap up the show, they've only allowed 14 total attempts. That's 14 total shots, only 4 on goal. If you're wondering, that's good. That's really good. They're making it really easy on those goalkeepers between